Good morning and a very warm welcome to the 8th World Congress on Conservation Agriculture, here on this wonderful online platform and here at the No-Till room. And I want to welcome you on this session under the topic Successful Experience and Learnings from Conservation Agriculture Worldwide. I am the chair of this session and my name is Jana Epperlein. I'm a soil scientist and I'm working for the German Association of Conservation Tillage. Our rapporteur in this session is Dr. Theo Friedrich. He will be in charge of taking minutes and who will sort also the questions. For questions and discussion, please use the box and on this platform, and we will sort them, and after all the presentation we will have time for the discussions. Please note that our time constraints are very narrow, so be precise and possible for your questions. So after the keynote speech, we have 7 presentations. Our session is scheduled for 2 hours. And after all presentation, I tell you we have time for the questions. And if we cannot answer all questions, you will find the answers after the Congress on the Congress homepage. And also the session will be recorded and you will find this presentation also after the Congress on the Congress homepage. So please use also the possibility when you have a look of this wonderful platform to meet other participants at the launch via WonderMe and also see around the sponsorship area. Today is also some Zoom calls, for instance, with Syngenta. Okay, so before we hear our different presentations in this session, I am very pleased and proud to introduce our well-known keynote speaker, AMIR Kassam. Good morning, AMIR. AMIR is a visiting professor in the School of Agriculture Policy and Development, University of Reading in United Kingdom, where he teaches agriculture and development. He is the moderator of the global platform for conservation agriculture community of practice and the chairman of the International Conservation Agriculture Advisory Panel for Africa. So, AMIR, I'm very happy to have you here as a keynote speaker, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Jana, for that lovely introduction, and I'm delighted to be with all our colleagues and you. I have sent in my recording, so I would like to go into that recording, and I will be available later on for any questions. Is that okay?
Yes, that will be nice. We will start the presentation.
Colleagues, I am delighted to be making this presentation on successful experiences and learnings from conservation agriculture worldwide. I'm joined for this presentation by my old colleague Theo Friedrich, as well as by Rolf Derbs. The outline of the presentation covers the following areas: successful experiences in terms of global and regional spread of CA, as well as national adoption of CA. We will then look at some major learnings which are occurring and have occurred, and then we will finish off with a brief look at what lies ahead of us. Successful experiences to me at the global and regional level have been a massive success story, a massive game changer, in fact, and this is felt by many of the stakeholders in the CA community. For example, if you take a look at this historical uptake chart, you find that today we have more than 205 million hectares globally, covering more than 100 countries. CA took off around 1990. An initial rate from 1990 to 2009 or 10 was around 5 to 6 million hectares per year. But then in the last decade, the rate doubled to 10.5 million hectares. In the year 2008, we had a major conference in Rome with global stakeholders, and a global plan of action was prepared, and a platform for CA, Community of Practice, was launched. And that was a great milestone as far as I'm concerned. At that time, in 2008 and 2009, there were around 100 million hectares under CA, about 7% of the area of cropland, covering 36 countries. Also, at that time, only 4% of the total area was in Europe, Asia, and Africa. Today, 15% of the global cropland area is under CA. But we find that the area in Europe, Asia, and Africa has quadrupled in, over a bigger base now, and this is now 16%. 50% of the total area broadly has remained in the global south, and 50% in the global north. In terms of the split between smallholders and large-scale farmers, yes, 70-75% of the CA area is is occupied by large and medium scale holders, but they constitute relatively small numbers of farmers, about less than 500,000 farmers, whereas smallholder farmers constitute 25-30% of the CA area, and they, in terms of numbers of farmers, comprise some 25-30 million farmers. So this is important to keep in mind, that many more small farmers are practicing and benefiting from CA than large farmers. If you look at the regional spread, we find that 10 years ago or so, the areas of CA in Eurasia, Asia, and Africa was relatively small, but this increased substantially by 2019 or so, and this, as I said, has been a major fourfold increase in percentage terms. And in terms of the respective percentage increases, these have been much greater in these areas of Eurasia and Africa. But we must also remember that the other areas, like in the North and South America, as well as Australia, have continued to increase their CA area. And in Australia, for example, 75% of the area now is under CA, and in the Americas, close to 70%. And this is a massive gain, and represents to me a very, very worthwhile and admirable success story. At the national level, this too has been a massive game changer. And I will quickly look at what was happening before 2000, and then we will look at what was happening after 2000. Before 2000, there was a period of rethinking during 1940s to 1970s about land management and testing new approaches to soil and water conservation. No-till soil management particularly flowered initially in the USA, and then in the UK, and from there it went to South America, from USA, and from Europe to the European colonies. From 1970 to 2000, no-till production was being tested in all continents, and including Asia, Africa, and Europe. And early scaling began in the 80s and 90s in few countries in the Americas, but also Australia and South Africa. And decade of 1990 is considered as the decade when CA took off globally from about 11 million hectares in 1990 to 65 million hectares of cropland by 2000. In 1997, the term conservation agriculture was introduced for the first time in Spanish to replace the term conservation tillage. And this occurred at a regional meeting in Mexico of conservation agriculture tillage network, and three champion colleagues of ours, Rolf Sturps, Theo Friedrich, and Pepe Benitez, they pressed for this change and succeeded. And this started the thinking of CA as a major pathway to sustainable production intensification. The millennium opened with the first World Congress on Conservation Agriculture in 2001, organized by ICAF and FAO in Madrid, in Spain, and this began the process of globalizing the concept and principles of CA for sustainable production intensification, supported by FAO, which actually codified the three principles in a meeting in 1997 in a regional meeting in Harare. And then national and international agencies also began, some of them began to support CA, and certainly CA networks, which were being established, began to play their promotional part. During the first 2 decades of the new millennium, CA uptake by farmers, both smallholder and large-scale farmers, spread out to Europe, Africa, and Asia, while it continued spreading further in the Americas and Australia, as I showed earlier. National research and some CGIAR centers, such as CIMMYT and ICADA, began to conduct CA research, and 3 more congresses took place in Brazil, Kenya, and India. And during the period 1990 to 2009, as I had indicated, the global uptake of CA was about 5 million hectares per year. In July 2008, a global action plan was formulated, and Global CA Corp, the Community of Practice platform, was launched at a meeting in FAO where 100 people attended from all over the world, and this put more energy into global movement, CA movement, and at that time, although it was 100 million hectares of CA across 36 countries, by the end of the first decade, we began to see that 15% of the global cropland came under CA, an area of more than 200 million hectares across 100 countries. The rate increased, as I said earlier, to 10.5 million hectares. 3 more World Congresses were held in Australia, Canada, and Argentina. And as I showed in the table, CA area in Africa, Asia, and Europe expanded more rapidly in percentage term and over a bigger base. So to summarize, the expansion of CA uptake continues to be largely farmer-driven, but increasing number of government and public institutions are now providing institutional and policy support, along with private sector machine and service companies. Several countries in all continents are now mainstreaming CA, and I draw a distinction between uptake, which occurs at the grassroots level with farmers, against the word mainstreaming. Mainstreaming is a scaling processes which are then supported by institutions aligning themselves in that movement behind CA. And here I'm talking about research institutions, education institutions, extension institutions, but also the private sector institutions along the value chain, and of course the civil society organizations, all joining in the effort to achieve a shared goal. Success experiences at the national level, we can see in terms of a pattern of large pattern of large array of benefit for small farmers and big farmers. And I want to quickly look at what that means at the crop level or farm level and society, and landscape level and society. At the crop or farm level, the contribution to society are in terms of increase and stable yields and a substantial increase in factor productivities. I know that some people feel that we don't get much increases in yield, but this is not true. Where the yield levels are low to moderate, substantial increases in yields occur, and at the high level, major gains also occur, especially in productivity. This means that profit margins go up because more efficient systems are established and lower levels of inputs are required. But it all depends on the level of degradation at the starting level and the level of yield the farmers are operating. And we cannot expect a single set of responses because we're dealing with millions of situations across the world, across major climates and major agroecologies, soil type, and socioeconomic conditions. But we do recognize the pattern, and with increase in productivity, we find that input requirement begins to come down significantly in terms of agrochemicals use, including fertilizer and pesticide and herbicide, and less water is needed. And of course, we hear constantly about lower machinery cost, decrease in energy and labor cost up to 50 or 70%. And this means that the cost of production for society is lowered and consumer prices remain relatively low, and there is better quality of products, and we hear in many instances the nutritional status of households improve. I quickly show two illustrations. In Brazil, for example, the area of maize-based CA system has remained steady at about 38 to 40 million hectares, while output has increased doubled, in fact, from 60 million tons to 125 million tons, whereas the fertilizer rates have come down by 30% or more. In Canada, after 15, 20 years, we find that nutrient response curve flatten out. They increase to higher levels, but also they flatten as biological sources of nutrients are built up and nutrients are conserved. And this has now been shown in the tropics as well as in the subtropics. At the land and society level, we see there is greater animal and human carrying capacity, and there is the lower impact of climate in terms of extreme events, drought, floods, heat, cold, and of course there is a good substantial contribution of CA to crop production adaptability and mitigation in terms of greenhouse gas emissions. And as a result, we have a lower environmental cost to society in terms of infrastructure damage because flood risks are reduced substantially. And of course, water pollution is reduced, and therefore the cost of cleaning water due to agricultural pollutions are lowered. In terms of ecosystem services, we see that a whole raft of services and environmental benefits are harnessed from clean water and stream flows and regulated river systems and hydrology to carbon sequestration, minimization of erosion and runoff and degradation, and of course better carbon, nutrient and water cycling, and of course things related to biodiversity such as pollination services and food webs and food chains are all established. And I give two examples here at the large scale, very large scale, at the landscape level, where benefits are given to the nation itself and society. For example, carbon offset scheme in Alberta, which has been running for many, many years. It started before Kyoto and just finished last year. And farmers there were being paid $14 per ton sequestered initially, but later they received $24, $25 per ton sequestered. And this payment came from industry emitting excessive amounts of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. This scheme was only possible because the whole province in Alberta is under CA. Similarly, the water services provides another story. In Brazil, the whole of the Paraná Basin number 3, which drains into Itapu Dam, Lake, and runs the hydroelectric complex, the largest one set up in the world. That basically functions much better now because the whole the land use across the watershed was transformed into CA by IAPAR and the Federation, No-Till Federation, with the help of the Itapu Dam Complex Authority. 25 years ago, this was the color of the water, very muddy, with millions of tons of topsoil and fertilizer and pesticides and microorganisms. But today it is fairly clean, and the benefit has been enormous, as reflected in terms of the increase in operating life from 40 years originally to more than 200, 250 years. But we also, I have seen that land, abandoned land, can be rehabilitated, as it has been done now in China and Australia, large areas in Brazil and also in Africa. This is abandoned land. We have seen that greater and greater amount of documentation have occurred over the last 20 years, and we now have many journal papers, thousands of papers, and many books being written. This shows that we are now organizing the CA knowledge generated by research and innovation, by empirical means, and this becomes useful for training to the academia at the university level, in organizing syllabuses and curricula, and this is all now happening and will get better. For example, these 3 volumes, Advances in Conservation Agriculture, have been, there are more than 200 champions, CA farmers and experts and supporters who have contributed to this 3 volumes, and this is a great indication of how well we have been succeeding. 3 major learnings out of many I would like to point out, based on global scientific and empirical evidence. Number 1, that 3 CA principles are universally applicable to not only annual cropping system, but also perennial systems. And we have seen this in all continents, on all farm sizes, and with all types of farm power. And this is a fact. This is not some sort of a cooked up fake news. This is because the 3 principles, when applied contextually, emulate nature, in which mechanical soil disturbance does not exist. Biomass is returned to the soil and incorporated by microorganisms, and there is abundance of diversification of plant species and food webs and food chains, and all this provides an ecological foundation for sustainability and conservation and resilience. And number 2, CA operates sustainably and optimally. I emphasize the word optimal. This is not just going for maximum yield, but optimal output, optimal performance on a sustainable base. And optimal means that you have a balance of desired output combinations. And this is what we now have to achieve, and CA to me is the king of optimality, and or the queen of optimal performance. CA, and this is possible, as we've learned, because CA sets up a synergistic spiral of regeneration and enhancement to establish an integrated production and land use system within the agro-ecosystem. CA, this happens because CA generates enhanced soil health, biology in the soil, and all the functions which then emerge from that, and these are good for crop production as well as for ecosystem service delivery. And also CA enhances biodiversity below and above the ground. And this is easily seen in terms of some of the resilience in the performance, like against pests and diseases, and also in terms of suppression of weeds, but also in terms of production of biomass, which increases tremendously, and so forth. And of course, CA systems have diverse root systems and therefore relationship with soil system on a continuous basis. And these relationships have been co-evolved over many centuries. And these relationships with microbiomes are very, very important to maintain soil integrity and soil resilience. And based on this, what we get is that the performance is maximum in terms of efficiency, but also maximum in terms of resilience. And we basically then are talking about enhanced environmental and ecosystem functions and the delivery of benefit not only to farmers but also society. And this is what we mean when we say we need multifunctional systems now, which operate in a joined-up manner from the ground into the catchment and watershed level and regional level and so forth in space and time. So learning number 3, we now are realizing that CA is definitely an alternative paradigm for sustainable agriculture. It is capable of addressing the weaknesses in the dominant tillage-based green revolution paradigm, which has run out of steam and is no longer fit for purpose, and it's has become a degrading system, which we must move away from. And CA basically is providing that alternative system. And CA has shown to be able to mobilize the fuller biological and economic potentials of agriculture and land use, as I said, for the farmer and for society, but also for the planet. We have to be aware that we've exceeded 4 or 5 planetary boundaries in terms of agricultural performance, and we have to now amend that, but respond to food security needs and climate change adaptability and mitigation needs, and harness a full benefits from ecosystem services, which we have not been able to do. Looking ahead, we have basically a nice goal ahead of us, which is that we should be heading towards 50% increase in the world annual cropland by 2050. And this would equate to about 700 million hectares by 2050. And this would require adding another 5 million hectares per year, similar to what we did in the last decade. So I think this is attainable if we all put our effort together over the next 30 years and create this so-called program called CA Extra. I elaborated on the actions needed to achieve this global goal in my inauguration lecture, calling the global community to concentrate on 6 thematic areas. Finally, I thank you all profusely for listening to me and for your time, and I wish you a very productive and enjoyable Congress about which you can all be extremely proud of. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Amir, for your presentation. And thank you very much for your updated data and overview of the worldwide adoption of conservation agriculture. And now we skipped into our 7 presentations of the experience of conservation agriculture worldwide. And I want to announce our next speaker in this session. It is Dr. Hafiz Muminjanov from Tajikistan. Hafiz Muminjanov is professor and has 30 years experience in the field of agriculture and rural development with focus on conducting research and supporting extension. Hafiz has been actively promoting conservation agriculture in Eurasia region and supporting the initiatives in Cuba, Cambodia, Iran, China, and other countries. Since December 2018, Professor Muminjanov is working as an agriculture officer on sustainable intensification of cropping system at FAO HEAT. So I'm very proud that you are in our session, and the floor for your presentation is yours. Please.
Thank you very much, Jana. My presentation is recorded, and I'm very delighted to answer the questions.
Yes, thank you.
See you all. Distinguished delegates of the Congress, dear colleagues and friends, first of all, I would like to thank the organizing committee of the 8th World Congress on Conservation Agriculture for given opportunity. Today I am privileged to present the outputs of the study on the status of conservation agriculture in Eurasia. The study was carried out by a team of experts from the region and outside, and for the purpose of this study, Eurasia considered as 12 former Soviet republics. We also will look at some experiences from Turkey. The region is large and could be divided into 3 geographical subregions as Eastern Europe, Caucasus, and Central Asia. The region has very diverse soil and climatic conditions and very rich of natural resources, forests, particularly black soil. Total territory of the region is 1/6 of the global land area, or almost 22 million kilometers. More than 292 people live in this region. Total cropland makes about 202 million hectares, and in all countries in the region, area under CA has been rising or increasing during the recent decades. The significant increase of area under CA is observed in Ukraine, Kazakhstan, and Russia. The key driving forces for adoption and promotion of CA defined as climate change outputs, as droughts, water scarcity, recurrent sand and dust storms, followed by soil degradation and crop yield decline. In parallel, input prices are also increasing. However, the government of the countries in the region are focusing more on sustainable production to fulfill the commitments to international agreements. But there is still lack of policies and strategies that could provide enabling environment for successful adoption and promotion of CA in the region. And there is a need for changing the mindset of the farmers, researchers, agriculture and extension specialists and policymakers. Still, there is a lack of appropriate set of field equipment, lack of knowledge and trained experts. There is a weak research and development program and agriculture extension systems require more support. Governments provide financial support to the research and development, but it is not sufficient. So there is the need for more support in developing curricula and training programs. Let's look at some results at country levels. So demonstration of CA started in Armenia by USAID and the local NGO Armenian Technology Group in 2005-2006. Following that, FAO and EU projects assisted farmers to adopt and promote CA through conducting trainings, field days, helping to diversify the cropping systems, and integrating CA with integrated pest management. Currently, the area of CA in Armenia makes 300 hectares. In Azerbaijan, adoption of CA started with support of FAO regional project funded by the government of Turkey. Following that, government of Azerbaijan also supported the large-scale demonstrations, trainings, and field days. Farmers started adopting CA and they are more interested to promote it. So the recent data on area of CA in Azerbaijan is 37,500 hectares. In Georgia, adoption of CA started recently with the support of FAO project, and interest of the government is rising. The project has been conducting on farm trials, demonstrations, improving capacity of the farmers. However, there was a problem with rodents on the CA fields, therefore combining CA with integrated pest management. So area is not so significant, but an increasing. Currently, area of CA in Georgia is only 200 hectares. Kazakhstan in the region has more experiences on adopting and promoting CA. Actually, reduced tillage technologies were developed in Kazakhstan during cultivating the virgin land in 1950s, 1960s. But first experiments on adopting CA have been conducted in the framework of FAO TCP project, and following that, other developing partners and donors like World Bank assisted the government in upscaling the outputs of the project. And government also provided incentives for no-till and diversification of the cropping system on wheat-based cropping systems. So as a result, during 2000 and 2012, area under CA increased from 0 to 1.8 million hectares. And currently, the area of CA in Kazakhstan is calculated as over 3 million hectares. And the recent trend is promoting CA and the irrigated system in the southern regions of Kazakhstan, and also demonstrating combination of CA with subsurface irrigation. In Kyrgyzstan, a number of donors and developing partners supporting promotion of CA in integration with IPM and other good agriculture practices. FAO has been adopting CA through establishing and running farmer field schools, also helped to develop the national strategy to prepare curriculum and training modules. So the capacity of agriculture extension specialists was strengthened. So the last data from Kyrgyzstan, this area is over 60,000 hectares. In Moldova also, FAO and other developing partners have been helping the government to adopt and promote CA, and government was conducting a series of international conferences and helping to develop training manuals, books, textbooks, and special attention was paid on promoting of CA by visiting CA experts from South America and Europe. Currently, farmers practicing CA in Moldova in over 180,000 hectares. Russia also has a long history on reduced tillage, on protecting soil, especially black soils. And there are some experiments were conducted and for reducing soil erosion during cultivating virgin land in Siberia. But later on, the CA has been promoted through establishing no-till or CA associations and national movement on conservation agriculture. These institutions are conducting conferences, trainings, field days. The number of field producing companies also is increasing in Russia. Currently, there are 10 companies that produce no-till drills. Another positive side is that in the Central Research, Agriculture Research Library, there is a special section on CA publications. And university is also developing curricula, training programs, and textbooks. Farmers are practicing CA under more than 6 million hectares in Russia. So in Tajikistan, the promotion of CA started in early 2000s with support of FAO and the World Bank. So these projects assisted to improve the capacity of agriculture extension systems, to develop curricula, training modules and programs, and also the national strategy was formulated. CA is practiced in over 2,000 hectares. So we are impressed with adopting and promoting CA by farmers in Ukraine. The farmers are demonstrating large-scale adoption and promotion of CA. They have blogs, they are opening YouTube channels, they are conducting trainings, conferences, field days, developing manuals, and also presenting or promoting modern techniques that could be combined in CA systems like subsurface drip irrigation, application of liquid fertilizers, usage of drones, etc. FAO is also contributing by improving the capacity of farmers in Ukraine. So area under CA in Ukraine makes over 900,000 hectares. Testing of CA in Uzbekistan started with planting wheat on standing cotton. So, and these experiments were supported by ICARDA, FAO, and other projects. Then government promoted diversification of the cropping system that helped also to adopt CA. Further, FAO projects assisted to improve the national capabilities and to formulate the national strategy that was discussed, presented and discussed during the international conference on CA we had in 2018. So currently, farmers in Uzbekistan are practicing CA on about 120,000 hectares. So there are some good examples also on adopting and promoting CA from Turkey. The government is interested, farmers are interested, and the National Association of CAs established in Turkey. And farmers are promoting CA through social networks like Facebook, Twitter, and also established female farmer field schools. So the local manufacturers are have been producing no-till drills. The quality of that is also increasing and getting better. So FAO helped to develop the national strategy that was presented and discussed in the international conference in 2017. So there are some lessons learned while working with the farmers. So we realized that the promotion or adoption of CA should start at crop harvesting. So residue must be chopped and spread out evenly. So also the plow pan should be removed using subsoil, and it could be, depending on the soil features, it could be repeated every 5-6 years. So also there is still debate on feeding the cow or the soil. So farmers are not ready, but they have to understand that for sustainable production, they have to retain some residue to increase soil fertility. we assure that CA is conservation agriculture. It's not chemical agriculture, because conservation agriculture provides several ecosystem services that improves soil health and biodiversity. Farmers prefer CA taking into account economic advantages. However, economic advantages could be achieved also by minimum tillage. But CA is not minimum tillage. Therefore, adoption of CA requires proper and suitable no-till drills. But most of the drills, seeders, are imported from different countries, and they are for the large-scale production. They are heavy and not always respond to the requirements. So there is a need for no-till drills for small-scale farms with the hand job planters and other type of drills. There is also lack of seeds of cover crops and drills for planting cover crops, lack of equipment for chopping, moving, and rolling the green biomass. Special attention should be paid to equipment and regulation for safe application of pesticides. So here I would like to mention about the regional workshop we had in 2015 in Tajikistan, where we agreed to establish a regional alliance on CA. Following the meeting, the regional website in Russian was established, and it serves as a knowledge platform because it gathers a lot of publication, presentation, manuals, curriculum. So the conclusion out of this presentation is that CA is moving to the farmers' fields, maybe not too fast, but it's moving, but it requires time and patience. So farmers are standing in the front line, and we have to help to build trust, to change the mindset, and they should take the initiative and promote CA further. For this, maybe there is a need for establishing and strengthening farmers' networks and associations that also can help to generate more income and promote other innovations of farmers. Thank you for your attention, and please feel free to contact me should you need any further information. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Hafiz, for your interesting presentation. And for the participants, note that we will discuss all the presentation in the end of this session. And now I want to hand over to our next presenter. It's Kassem Jouni, and he will report from the experience of conservation agriculture in Lebanon. Kassem Jouni is a sustainable agriculture promoter in Africa and in the Arab countries, who worked with private and international development agencies and the United Nations. Currently, he is working for the World Food Programme. His expertise also includes conservation agriculture, climate-smart agriculture, dairy farming, water management systems, surface water hydrology, and agro-food processing. So I'm very happy, Kassem, to see you here. It was many years ago when we met in Lebanon. So yeah, I'm very happy for your updated presentation. What's the situation in Lebanon? So we will see your presentation.
Thank you very much. I'm really glad to see you everyone here. I'll go to the recorded presentation and we'll meet you back again in the conclusion and the questions. Over.
Thank you, Amir.
Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, wherever you are in this world. I'm Kassem Jouni. I'm one of the promoters of conservation agriculture here in Lebanon. I'll be presenting here on my behalf and the behalf of my professor, Dr. Isam Bashur from the American University of Beirut. I used to promote conservation agriculture with the German International Cooperation, GIZ, here in this country. I'll be sharing my screen. I hope you can see it right now. So in Lebanon, we're working here on promoting conservation agriculture in both systems, the or field crops, which is the open fields and forages cereals, in addition to the orchard system, mainly all field crop, orchard fruit trees, in addition mainly in Lebanon as the main crop, the main orchards, the olive trees. So this project here in Lebanon worked from 2006 till 2013 until the Syria war, because it was a regional project based in Syria, and Lebanon was supporting this through the Arab League. CA was able to overcome the challenges of the agricultural sector here in Lebanon, mainly targeting the water resources management in addition to the irrigation and water use efficiency. CA was able to reduce the water pollution in addition by optimum use of pesticides and fertilizers, and also as the main concern of the farmers, it helped in reducing the cost of production. We worked here directly with Ministry of Agriculture in addition to ACSAD and the League of Arab States, in addition to the main private sector and national universities of agriculture universities here in Lebanon. And the main supporter of this promotion of CA system were the private service provider, the private sector. So service provider used to promote the CA, where the GIZ, our project, supported them or subsidized by the CA machinery, in addition to the extension service for the farmers. We started here with, in 2007, with 4 plots. These 4 plots were either private lands, and in addition to the research pilot plots at the Research Institute of the Lebanese Agriculture Research Institute for the Ministry of Agriculture, in addition to the ARIC, the research station of the American University of Beirut. In 2008, as you see in this map, we expanded from Central Bekaa to North Lebanon, Northern Bekaa, in addition Mount Lebanon, and the southern part of Lebanon. Looking at the results, we started with barley vetch, a combination of cereal leguminous crop. So as you can see, the first trial, we had an increase of 32% of the production more in the no-till system compared to the conventional tillage, which was a good start to attract farmers while reducing the cost of production and maximizing the yield or increasing the yield. This was another plot in North Lebanon where we had planted wheat during the season of 2008-2009. As you can see in both plots, it's completely the same in terms of the height of the wheat plant. However, looking at the results, we had more production in the no-till system compared to the tillage system, which is, I think we're here all agreeing on these numbers. However, we needed to convince the farmers. Another pilot plot in Central Bekaa, in Western Bekaa. We had this land from a landowner which was called Shahar. Shahar in Arabic means the worst land. As you can see, it's highly infested in weeds. So what we did is we cut and killed these weeds, and we had direct seeding of barley vetch mixture. As you can see here in both photos, this is the no-till, the tillage on the left side, no tillage on the right side. As you can see, emergence of the barley vetch was earlier in the no-till, and as you go on, you can see higher, bigger plants in the no-till. Looking at the results in the same land, we had 21% increase in the no-till barley vetch mixture compared to the tillage system, which also attracted more farmers to abide or take or promote and use the no-till conservation agriculture. Also, one concern is in Lebanon is the water in the summer, because most of the field crops use the rain-fed. So for that, you can see increase in water retention or soil moisture by 32% in the no-tillage in Lebanon. Looking at the biodiversity as a main concern right now for agriculture and the production, we had more earthworms in the no-till system compared to the tillage system. At the AB farm, 5.7 compared to 1 worms per meter squared. Also, the same thing in the weed infestation. For the first years, you can see definitely no tillage has lower weed infestation for the main weeds here in Lebanon. It's really obvious, and definitely on the long run, it's much lower in the no tillage system. As for the CA machinery used here in Lebanon, we worked on the Fankhauser, the Brazilian made machine, where we had the winter row crop in addition to the summer crop, where we had this innovation where we went once in the field, seeding, fertilizing, and installation of the drip system. Moreover, we got the Ozdocam, the Turkish system, Turkish machinery here in Lebanon. As for the economical advantages, we comparing the tillage and the no tillage, we had savings of around $300 to $350 per hectare when adopting or taking the no till compared to the tillage system. Also, we had this crazy no-till potato, as we call it here, in the among farmers, because potato is the main crop and the crop rotation here after wheat or barley, vetch, or the cereals. So we planted, harvested within the residues of the no-tillage, which gave good results here in Lebanon. And as you can see, earthworms also are there in the no-tillage potato. As for the orchard system, as I said, olives are the main orchard system here in Lebanon, in addition to apples, cherries, and stone fruits. So we had these pilot projects from 2008 to 2010, and from 2011 and onward, we expanded through extension centers of the Ministry of Agriculture, and we had much promotion of no-till under orchard trees. So what should be done under orchard trees? Simply nothing. Leave the residues. Just spread veg seeds as a main green manure here in Lebanon. This cheap, available leguminous crop, 20 kilogram per dunum or 1,000 square meter, and that's it. You leave it. Look at the photos here. In December sowing, and you can see the emergence of veg under orchard system or olive trees, and you can see the very nice green manure, the very nice plants, and then it flowers, seeds, throw the seeds back again, and the tree emerges the same ground cover. So veg is the new weed over the topsoil, providing nitrogen, and the good thing after while harvesting the olives, very nice cover, no injuries for the olive fruits, beautiful. As for the waterlogging, as you can see, farmers might plow because they want water to infiltrate, and this photo shows you that it's not true. So in the plowed system, you can see waterlogging in the same storm, while in the no-tillage system, CA, waterlogs, directly infiltration, very nice, with no waterlogging on top of soil. I would end this by saying in 2015, our team, Dr. Bashur, we took the Milano Expo 2015 award among the 749 program participating for introducing no-tillage here in Lebanon. Mabruk, Dr. Bashur, we're really proud of this prize as well. To conclude, CA will continue to grow in Lebanon and Middle East. However, we need more research and extension support, government support as well, and the main thing is educational program on CA to be developed more and more. I would end by this slide saying that we produced these two documentaries on CA in Lebanon and CA in orchards in Lebanon. You can YouTube it and find these nice documentaries. Thank you very much. I would end here, and thank you very much. And if you have any question, my email is in the presentation. I'm glad I shared this experience of Lebanon. Ciao, see you, bye-bye.
So thank you, Kassem, for your very interesting presentation. And many greetings also to Isam Bashur and all the colleagues from AREC. And I never forget the crazy potatoes that we see at the research station in AREC. So we will discuss hopefully at the end more. And now the time is running, and I want to welcome our next presenter. It's Brandon Brown from Nepal. Dr. Brandon Brown is a community development researcher with more than 10 years of experience in agriculture research for development focused on conservation agriculture in Asia, Africa and the Middle East, working with different big organizations. He is currently based in Kathmandu and focused on research pathways to facilitate the scaling of conservation agriculture in eastern Gangetic plains of South Asia. So I'm very happy to have you here in our session, and the floor is yours. And you have also a recorded presentation, so we will switch on to this presentation. Thank you.
Hello everybody. It's great to have the opportunity to present our learnings from 8 years of conservation agriculture scaling activities in South Asia through the Sustainable and Resilient Farming System Intensification, or SURFSI, project. I'm Dr. Brendan Brown of Simit, Nepal, happy to attend my third WCCA and also thankful for the team that has contributed to this research, particularly Akriti, Pragya, Anjana and Emma, and the more than 25 partners who have worked with us on this project. Today, I'd like to explore two interrelated questions. What have we achieved in terms of conservation agriculture, and what are the next steps to ensure sustained impact? But first, some context. For those unfamiliar, the Eastern Gangetic Plains has the highest concentration of global poverty, yet has substantial potential to intensify rice wheat and rice maize systems through conservation agriculture. Our work focuses on 6 nodes of influence across Nepal, West Bengal, Bihar and Bangladesh, and these are the locations that we'll discuss today. To start to answer the current status, I'm sharing periodic estimates from our partners about conservation agriculture uptake across 4 conservation agriculture methods. These estimates are collated from various organizations, including departments of agriculture, rural universities and development organizations. What we see is there's a growing uptake of KASSAM practices over the recent past, comprising primarily of surface seeding occurring in Malda. However, we also see that there is an upswing in the mechanical rice transplanter use in Kharif or monsoon, and in Nepal and India, the 4-wheel ZT multi-crop planter, and in Bangladesh, the 2-wheel strip tillage machine. However, we do see some stagnation in Bangladesh. However, we were looking for a more robust approach. So over the last 7 months, we've been collecting an impact survey from 57 project and control communities comprising nearly 6,500 respondents. Unfortunately, with a 10-minute window, we're only scratching the surface of this data set, and I'll only have time to present on mechanized Rabi KASSAM. But for those interested more broadly, please do get in contact. So firstly, let's explore the adoption curve. What we can confirm from partner estimates is that there is substantial uptake of mechanized Rabi CA in West Bengal in particular, and less so in Nepal and Bangladesh. However, this provides only limited understanding of the true extent of CA uptake and non-uptake. To go beyond this, we've applied the stepwise process of mechanization framework, which is built out of the process of agricultural utilization framework presented at the last WCCA in Argentina and published in Ag Systems. When we use that framework, the output looks like this, and there's a lot to unpack. But essentially, this helps us categorize a community into 8 typologies and 4 categories, including the exposure gap, those who have negatively evaluated, the pool of potential short-term adopters, and the ideal outcome of unassisted use. Let's first focus on that exposure gap. What we can see is that in 4 of the 5 geographies, the exposure gap is dominant, and it's only in Cooch Behar in West Bengal where we see that more than 1 in 2 farmers who responded to the survey were exposed to KASSAM machinery. This means that, of course, it is a really persistent constraint that is limiting the scaling of conservation agriculture. More so, however, when we explored that information gap in those that had passed through exposure, that is the interested, disinterested, disadoption and current users, what we found is that across all of those typologies, more than 80% of respondents identified an informational constraint. And importantly, there was substantial identification of the information gap as a reason for non-use. Even in current users, we are seeing more than 40% are not understanding zero-till. It does highlight that this is a driving constraint for scaling CA in the EGP. Now, what the SRFSI project has done has tried a few novel approaches. Firstly, we developed a visual training syllabus available in English, Hindi and Bengali, scripted and filmed with local partners and community members, and indeed with real farmers and service providers as actors. It aims to cover common issues with learning about, implementing and troubleshooting CA machinery for both farmers and service providers, and also useful for extension services. This is available on YouTube and also on our online repository, srfsi.cimit.org. What we've tried to do here is to create a centralized online repository for CA information focused on the Eastern Gangetic Plains, and particularly targeted to users. So different landing pages for farmers, service providers, extension services, policymakers, and researchers. Really trying to centralize that knowledge and make sure it can be accessed and is framed in a way that's useful to those end users. Some of the things I won't go into too much detail now is the world first massive online open course for conservation agriculture. Now, Dr. Ramdat is presenting that in theme 4, so please do look at his presentation for more information. Likewise, when we talk about convergence, how was it that Cooch Behar has closed that exposure gap? What we see in West Bengal is on the left a list of conservation agriculture machinery that is a compulsory part of any state-sponsored custom hire centre. Likewise, on the right, we have the final stages of the commissioning of the Conservation Agriculture Centre for Excellence, based at the North Bengal Agricultural University, UBKV. We're hoping that will become a knowledge and training hub for CA across the broader region. Now, Dr. Apurva Chowdhury has a poster, and I encourage you to interact with him and view that poster on the process of convergence that has been quite successful in West Bengal. So that's on the information side, but what happens once farmers have obtained exposure to this machinery? That is, how many are negatively evaluating, what's the pool of potential adopters, and how many are actually using it unassisted? Let's start with negative evaluation. What we can see, and particularly in comparison to the negative evaluation rates in sub-Saharan Africa, it's quite low in our surveyed contexts. When we look at the reasons for negative evaluation, what we can see is that information and awareness, as well as access to machinery and service providers, are the dominant reasons that somebody has given up on conservation agriculture. It tends not to be machinery performance. The exceptions to that seem to be in Malda, where we do see more incidents of issues with stover management, machine performance, and weed management. Interestingly, there is divergence between disadoption and disinterest here. If you look at yield and weed management, these tend to identify that there are different reasons to be a disadopter rather than disinterested, and that will mean different informational needs and promotional strategies to bring them back into potential adoption. Now, in terms of potential short-term adopters, what we do see is there's substantial elements of pre-use disinterest. That is, people who want to use but have not progressed to use. That's alongside constrained adoption, which is would be using if they could access a zero-till drill. When we explore the reasons for a lack of progression, again we see information and access to service providers as the dominant reasons for a lack of progression. It doesn't, again, tend to be the technology of CA. Again, Malda showing some signs that there might be some issues with performance, and cost an issue in Bangladesh. Finally, in terms of the current usage, what we want to understand is use primarily assisted or unassisted? Because for long-term adoption, we want to see that unassisted use higher. What we do see is across the whole data set, about half of use is actually assisted. And that brings about questions. How do we make sure that those users, once support finishes, do continue in their use? In terms of next steps, there's 3 things that we've learned for the next steps of scaling KASSI in the EGP. The first one is we need to have a robust fee-for-hire service provision economy and business models that make sense, that encourage people and farmers, machinery owners to actually provide services more broadly. I encourage you to find us in the poster sessions because we do have a poster that looks at how service provision is constrained in the Eastern Gangetic Plains for direct seeded rice. The second one is we've shown in West Bengal that we need to converge on policies at the state level. We need to develop novel materials that can be accessed widely, not just within projects, but more widely, to close those persistent information gaps. And thirdly, the only common issue with the technology itself seems to be seed drop. So thinking about what novel ways we could adapt the seed capture mechanism in zero-till drills to try and overcome that. Finally, I'd just like to thank the Australian government that has commissioned this SRFSI project run through CIMMIT. We have more than 25 partners up there that contribute to this work. We've just scratched the surface in this presentation, but please do get in contact if you have interest in further learning about the EGP and KASSI. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brandon, for this very interesting presentation, and it was a good comment to the poster session of this Congress. So for all participants, please maybe in the breaks have a look at the poster sessions. Here you find a lot of more information. And the time is running and we have 4 presentations next, and I want to go over to our next presenter, and it's Dr. Enamul Haque from Bangladesh. Dr. Enamul has over 20 years practical experience in the field of conservation agriculture, farm mechanization, technology dissemination, and commercialization of agriculture equipment. He has contributed significantly to the development of CA-based technologies for smallholder race-based systems. He has established an agriculture research and extension platform with scientists, extensionists, farmers, and private sector. And Dr. Haque has been a member of the International Conservation Agricultural Advisory Panel for Africa since 2015. And I'm very proud to have you here, and the floor is yours. And we have also a recorded presentation.
Thank you, Jana. I will be available after the presentation for question and answer session. I'm happy to provide the recorded presentation.
Thank you.
Honorable Session Chair, Dr. Jana, Epperlein, dear virtual participants of 8th World Congress of Conservation Agriculture, ladies and gentlemen, very good morning, good afternoon, and good day. I am pleased to share the lessons learned on scaling out of conservation agriculture for smallholders. At the beginning of our presentation, I'd like to share the characteristics of smallholder that we are working with. The land holdings of these smallholders are too small, even less than 0.5 hectare, and they are very diversified cropping pattern where the cropping intensity are more than 200%. About 80% farmers grow transplanted rice at least once, many cases twice per year. More than 90% farmers are using two-wheel tractor-based tillage implements for land preparation. More than 95% area depends on small motorized irrigation systems, and they are used for thresher and shellers as well. About 90% of the farmers are using pre- and post-emergence herbicide. Crop cultivation in such area like in Bangladesh facing various challenges including shortage of agricultural labor, rising of labor prices, declining underground water, and this resulted higher cost of crop cultivation. However, small-scale farm mechanization and CA proved as an opportunity as it's saving labor, saving cost and time that helps to reduce production cost and increase crop yield and ultimately increases profitability. Since mid-1990s, Bangladesh is leading for developing various conservation agricultural based machineries for smallholders, including zero-tillage planter, strip planter, bed planter, versatile multi-crop planter or VMP, and strip rice transplanter, etc. One of the successful cases to develop versatile multi-crop planter for smallholding CA farmers. VMP is a unique, multifunctional and multi-crop planter with the capability for seeding and applying fertilizers in very low spacing using conservation agriculture in a single pass operation, which ensured a platform for adapting CA in resource-poor smallholder. Several trials conducted and it confirms that the use of VMP decreased crop production cost, reduced labor use and cost, reduced CO2 emission, improved soil fertility, and increased grain yield. Local service provision model with VMP also enabling business opportunity for young and educated farmers in their community. With the funding support from ACIAR since 2015, a pilot project have been implementing to commercializing of VMP using planting incentive model, that is PIM model, and tri-party investment model or TIM model. Under those models, more than 250 VMPs have been sold. However, we would like to share the case of Noakhali, where a total of 20 VMPs have been sold in 2019 and 20 using both PIM and TIM models. At the end of the soybean planting season, we have evaluated the adoption performance of VMP under those models. We found that 4 VMP owners planted soybean only in their own land and covered less than a hectare per VMP. 6 VMP owners used VMP for their own land and provided part-time planting services to neighboring farmers and covered around 5 hectares per VMP. 6 VMP owners acted as the full-time local service provider and covered about 10 hectares per VMP. The fourth category, consisting 4 VMP owners, covered more than 20 hectares per VMP by functioning as micro-entrepreneurs, as they have other agriculture inputs businesses locally and they have hired operators to provide service businesses on a wider spread in areas. The soybean farmers reported that they were able to save total $221 per hectare, including 127 US dollar per hectare for land preparation, $63 per hectare for seed sowing, $27 for soybean seed. Moreover, compared to conventional system, they have received about 600 kilogram per hectare of extra soybean yield. The soybean farmers confirmed that the use of VMP reduced the turnaround time up to 0 days, which helps them to show soybean seed in optimum time. In Bangladesh, through research, we have identified multiple benefits by applying the CA for crop production on smallholder farmers. That includes 34% labor saving, 31% seed save, 6% fertilizer saving, and 32% pesticide saving, which also confirm the profit increases, including 47% for lentil, 55% for maize, 46% for mustard, 76% for wheat. The relative values of these benefits varies among crop to crop, soil type, and agroclimatic zone. The value of these various benefits to farmers may also vary from farm to farm. For a cash-poor farmer, the reduced cost of production may be the key benefit, while for farmer having adequate farm labor, the labor saving may not be influential in the decision to adopt CA. A new CA practitioner may face initial greater challenges for wheat, equipment, ideas, and crop management. Adopting CA in intensive paddle rice-based system also showed challenging. CA not a simple component technology, rather it is complex and compound technology. Need patience for continuous learning, changing, and support for research and development. CA is not for the patience or impatient researchers or extensionists and farmers. After long-term trial and practicing, CA become proven technologies that are available for smallholders even in rice-based system. CA confirmed various benefits for longer and shorter time period. Thank you very much for your kind and patient hearing.
Thank you very much, Dr. Enamul, for your nice presentation. And I want to welcome our next presenter. It's Ms. Rukhangiz Nurbekova from Uzbekistan. I don't know if she is at the moment live here in our on our floor, but I hopefully she will join us after our presentation. And Ms. Nurbekova is working on the Research Institute of Agricultural and Food Economics on the Faculty of Agroeconomics of Tashkent University State Agrarian in Uzbekistan. She published in various journals to the topic of improving land use efficiency through conservation agriculture in Central Asia, effect of tillage and the productivity of winter wheat under rain-fed condition in Tajikistan and Uzbekistan. So I'm happy to hear about this experience from these countries.
First of all, I would like to thank organizer giving me opportunity to make a presentation in this event. Title of presentation is Effect of Tillage and Fertilizer Rate on Productivity of Winter Wheat in the Aral Sea Basin of Uzbekistan. Salinity is becoming a major problem in Uzbekistan, which is increasing year after year and thereby adversely affecting crop yields. Aral Sea is shrinking from year to year. 35 km³ is needed annually to maintain current water levels in the Aral Sea. The proportion of irrigated land that is salinized to some extent has risen from 50% in 1989 to approximately 60% in 2009. About half, 2.1 million hectares, of the irrigated area in Uzbekistan is affected by secondary salinization. 31% is slightly saline, 18% moderately saline, and 4.5% strongly saline. We have to tackle this problem scientifically by adopting best practice so that younger generation could also use available land resource more effectively. In order to prevent soil salinity in the region, mulching or crop residue retention is one of the simplest and most beneficial practices. There are also options by which salinity problem can be managed, this including the use of soil-tolerant varieties, cropping system diversification, and adopting conservation agriculture, which can also include salt-tolerant varieties and diversified cropping such as cotton with legume cropping system. Soil mulching provides several benefits to crop production, so improving water, heat energy and nutrient status in soil, preventing soil and water loss, preventing soil salinity from flowing back to surface, and controlling weed. Many materials can be used as mulch, such as crop residue, straw, plant ash, poultry, livestock manure, and plastic films, and etc. Soil type is medium loamy, low in organic matter, 0.612 and 0.617%. Soil salinity moderately as a line 8 decimeter. The experiment conducted in 2016 and 2018, salt-tolerant winter with variety docile was shown using no-till method in the experiment. The experimental design was a randomized complete block with 4 replications. Plot size was 200 square meter. The objective of this research was to study the effect of different mulching rate on productivity of winter wheat yield under no-till method. The first control, no mulching, manure 20 ton hectare. The third, manure 15 ton hectare. The fourth, manure 10 ton hectare. The fifth, mung bean reside 10 ton hectare. Sorghum reside 10 ton hectare. Our research shown that the protease activity of the soil was higher in the soil with crop residue than in the field without crop residue. Soil mulching with plant residue and manure decreased the salt content in the 0 to 10 centimeter soil layer up to 1.6 and 4 times. Current research evidence from irrigated production in Uzbekistan showed that mulching with crop residue retention are effective in combating salinity. In the long run, no-till method with retention of crop residues helps in lowering down the salinity level due to combined effects of residue evaporation and recycling of organic matter. The significant effect was noticed on such yield contributing traits like plant heights, spike length, and number of grains per spike. The increasing of manure level from 10 ton hectare to 20 ton hectare also brought a significant increase in yield and yield contributing traits. Significant yield difference was found planting method. Wheat yield in treatments with manure application was 0.23 and 0.97 ton hectare higher than in control plots, which was 3.52 ton hectare. That can be explained as evaporative losses of water from mulching plots are lower than that of without mulching plot and with reduce evaporation. The accumulation of salt in root zone decreases that facilities and proliferation of roots and in turn greater yields. Conclusion. A study on the proteus activity of the soil was showed that proteus activity of the soil with crop residue was higher than in the fields without crop residues. Yield of wheat was increased with mulching plots compared to without mulching or control plots. We also emphasized the necessity of taking into account the crop residue retention under no-till method in cultivation of winter wheat in the salt-affected region to stabilize wheat production in Uzbekistan. We clearly realize that some residue retention will be essential before the attempt to adopt conservation agriculture practice, even though the primary goal may be to simply realize lower production costs, which is common with tillage reductions. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Nurbekova, for your presentation. It was very interesting. And we are moving forward in our session and to our next presenter. It's Richard Bell from Australia. Richard Bell is a professor at the Murdoch University in Australia, and Professor Bell conducted many collaborative research projects in Southeast Asia, China and South Asia. Most recently, he and his colleagues developed conservation agriculture for smallholder farms, and he leads research on nutrition management for rice-based cropping system in Bangladesh. So I'm very proud and happy to have you here, and the floor is yours.
Thank you. I'd just like to offer my greetings to all of those gathered. There's a recorded presentation which we'll go to shortly, but I'd just like to reiterate what Professor AMIR mentioned yesterday, that the smallholder agriculture is lagging behind in the adoption of CA, and this work, together with what Brendan has presented and my colleague Enamul Haque, is part of the Australian Centre for International Agricultural Research contribution to try and develop CA for these systems. So let me hand over now to the recorded presentation.
Okay, thank you very much.
It's my pleasure to share with you this brief presentation on conservation agriculture for rice-based intensive cropping on smallholder farms in South Asia, jointly with my colleague, Dr. Enamul Haque from Bangladesh, who's shown in the photograph on the bottom left. This represents over 15 years of continuous research in Bangladesh, trying to develop a form of conservation agriculture suitable for this region of the eastern Gangetic plain, which is a very significant region covering Bangladesh, West Bengal, Bihar state in India and southeastern parts of Nepal, and collectively over 370 million people live in this region. So its food security is critically important. We know that conservation agriculture is a well-developed technology for the four-wheel tractors, but the question is, how can this technology be adapted for smallholders, where we're dealing with farms often less than a hectare and commonly in fields that are less than 1,000 square metres? That's been our challenge. It's been based on innovations in developing small-scale planters. Our work is focused on the versatile multi-crop planter, the VMP, which is now fully manufactured in Bangladesh by Haque Corporation and sells for around about $900 to $1,000 US. It's based on strip planting and on 40 to 50% crop residue retention. these small planters simply can't cope with full residue retention. From extensive research, we can confidently say that there are many farmer benefits of the small-scale conservation agriculture system. The main one is increase in profits, which occurs in almost all the cases that we've assessed. Mostly there's a grain yield increase, but not always. There are cost of production savings. There's certainly significant labour savings and fuel savings. And for some crops, there are water savings, but not all. Through our extensive research and long-term studies, we have identified that this is a system that can build soil organic carbon and total nitrogen after 5 years. In the order of 66% increase has been reported in our research. And we've also been able to show 30% decrease in greenhouse gas emissions from rice using life cycle analysis in well-established conservation agriculture. So our focus is turning towards the outscaling of this technology. There are still aspects of the cropping system that need further refinement and further research, in particular to build robust rice establishment systems and more robust weed control systems, to work out what are the minimum levels of residue retention that can be effective, and also further work on the overall water balance of the cropping systems is needed. Ongoing development and testing of machinery is necessary in these smallholder systems, not just the planters, but also allied machinery such as transplanters. And the ongoing creation of demand for these services, as well as developing the supply chains, is part of our current focus. The local service providers are the model through which we aim to deliver conservation agriculture to smallholders who hire out these services of contract planting. So in Bangladesh, there are already hundreds of thousands of two-wheel tractors, and our aim is to turn as many as possible of these into contract seeders using conservation agriculture principles. One of the key learnings is that it's essential to match supply and demand in trying to promote conservation agriculture. There are many examples of where oversupply without creating demand has led to very little uptake. On the other hand, there's very little point in researchers using research equipment and demonstrating to farmers the benefits of conservation agriculture unless they can match it with a supply of planters and other services. So the demand creation is about doing conservation agriculture on farms. But we say beware of poor weed control and inexperienced operators when you first start this work. First impressions do count, and unless you're able to provide effective weed control and effective crop establishment, then it's not going to build farmer confidence. The demonstrations, we think, should be focused so that you build some momentum and discussion amongst farmers about the benefits of smallholder conservation agriculture. And it's essential to give the farmers and the local service providers a voice to provide their feedback on how well it's delivering. In terms of supply, it's critical to identify private sector partners who have a proactive market development plan and are customer focused in their approach. That is, they're not just there to deliver on an order, particularly from a project. They're actually proactively trying to develop the market themselves, that they are aware of the need to work with banks to provide credit, and that they're prepared to engage in policy dialogue. And finally, that we talk to policymakers and government about smart incentives rather than simply using subsidies, which can end up having counterproductive effects, particularly in the supply creation. In Bangladesh, we have some success stories. Our partnership with the soybean growers in Noakhali has led to over 20 of the VMP being sold. It's led to further modifications of the machine to make it more suitable for soybean, and that's a development that is progressing quite nicely. Our main messages from this work and the main learning is we can establish from the research, almost all of which has been done on farmers' fields, including many long-term experiments, benefits for yield, for cost savings, and for more timely sowing of crops. We can show benefits for the environment with reduced greenhouse gas emissions and increased soil carbon and nitrogen. The focus now has to be on scaling out the benefits through a coordinated regional and national program on creating demand, through working with policymakers to put in place the right incentives and access to credit, and to create an environment for ongoing innovation and commercialisation of planters. You can find many publications from our work which document what we've done, and I'm happy to supply those to anyone interested. And finally, I'd like to acknowledge the many partners who have enabled this work to take place. They're all listed here, but in particular, the funding from the Australian Centre for International Agricultural Research has been pivotal to this work over the journey. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Richard, for your presentation. And I'd like to introduce our last presenter in this session. It's Mr. Francis Boa-Amponsem from Ghana. And I'm very happy that you stay with us during this 8 World Congress and that you share your experience. Francis is a farmer and the founder and director of the Center for No-Till Agriculture in Ghana. And he is a strong promoter of CA at the smallholder level. So I'm very happy to have you here. And the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I'm so happy to be here. And without wasting time, I'll wish that you get to the recorded presentation. Thank you.
Okay.
My name is Boa from the Center for No-Till Agriculture at Amancha in Ghana. I'm speaking on the topic, tailoring CA development and promotion to the unique characteristics of the smallholder farmer for enhanced acceptance. Smallholder farming is very important in Africa. And smallholder farming has fed Africa for a very long time, and it's going to be so deep into the future. As climate change impacts on farming, more especially at the smallholder farmer level, there is the urgent need to empower the smallholder farmer to such an extent that they can build resilience into the farming system and be able to continue to produce food to feed the ever-increasing human population. The smallholder farmer has some unique characteristics, and we need to take advantage of these characteristics to be able to transition them into accepting and adopting conservation agriculture. There are several of these characteristics, but we're going to limit ourselves to just 4 of them. Limited access to information, limited land sizes and multiple crop system, lack of appropriate CA tools, and limited operational resources. Limited access to information. Smallholder farmers mostly have very little or no formal education. And so they are not the type of people that can synthesize research results and adapt that to their field conditions. They are also in a situation where most of them are in the rural communities where there's limited or no radio and TV programs on conservation agriculture. And they are also very much risk averse. No trial and error, no room for experimentation. So they are the group of people who will always want to see, feel it, and believe it. So for the smallholder farmer, seeing is the truth. And once they see it and see it repeatedly, it will catch up with them and they will take it. A case in point is at the Center for No-Till Agriculture, where we have dedicated plots showing the evidence and benefits of conservation agriculture over several years. This plot you see has gone, and has gone up to 8 years now. On the left is the traditional slash and burn plot, which is always bare at the beginning of planting. On the right is the CA plot, which is covered throughout the year with crop residue. And so these plots are planted to the same crop and go through the rotations. But the current one you see now is planted to the same variety, the same type of seed, planted the same day. But then you see the difference. This is then something that really shows up in the face of the farmers, and then they believe it. Smallholder farmer has limited land sizes, and more importantly, they do the multi-crop system. On the left, what you see is a multi-crop system of rice, maize, yam, vegetables, and some legumes. And this is what a smallholder farmer needs, because they always want to have a variety of food items on the table at any point in time. And so picking on that, the best thing then to do is to get them through the strip cropping system, whereby they will be able to grow all these crops that they need on that small piece of land, and at the same time offer them the unique opportunity to do the rotations, which CA system. And then smallholder farming is very much rain-fed. And so towards the end of the rainy season, whether it is bimodal or unimodal, close to the end, this is really intercropping then is brought in, which then extends the green cover deep into the dry season. And so in this situation, we're able to get a smallholder farmer satisfied in terms of the variety of food items they need on the table and the extra for sale, but being able to cover the soil over an extended period within the year. Lack of appropriate CA tools. Smallholder farmers are very traditionalist. And within this system, what happens is that they should be encouraged to transition into the CA system using their traditional hoes, like especially for land preparation in the dry land area. On the left is a field that has been hoed at the beginning of the season, and the entire land area has been hoed. But then you go to the right, and it is the same traditional hoe that has been used to just create slates in the zonal tillage system. And so what you see then is that the smallholder farmer spends less time, less labor, and more importantly, less cost to prepare the land to plant a crop at a time when he gets a better yield or comparable yields as previous system. But this is where we get a smallholder farmer to realize that by reducing the drudgery, by reducing the cost and getting a better yield, he can transition into a system whereby he reduces cost drastically. And this is where we then get the opportunity to transition them directly into the CA system of planting, just doing the direct planting. And in this case, they will appreciate the use of tools, appropriate tools, such as the jab planter, which will allow them to plant without doing any digging with the hoe. Smallholder farmers operate in limited operational resources. And what has happened is that where we have the biggest challenge in Africa is in the very dry land area. And in the dry land areas, that is also where we have the big herds of cattle. Now, transitioning these fields from the degraded conditions to a good, healthy soil will require the addition of some soil amendments, which most of the smallholder farmers have realized that manure and other things come in neatly. But the smallholder farmer is limited in the sense that several of them do not even have a single cow to give them the manure that they need. But what happens is that there's this big fleet of cattle that you see going is defecating and just littering the whole area with the cow dung. Now, the cow dung that is in the kraal belongs to the cow owner, but the cow dung of cattle running around does not belong to anybody. And so for this, in this situation, the cow dung belongs to all of us. So all that happens is empowering the smallholder farmer and giving them a little bit of incentives like the wheelbarrow and the shovel. And one of the things that happens is that because of the harsh conditions, about 3-4 months of the year, there is virtually nothing doing in terms of farm operations in the dryland areas. And therefore, farmers then could be encouraged to spend at least one day or half a day within a week to move around with the wheelbarrow and the shovel, collecting cow dung, so that by the beginning of the planting season, there is a big pile of cow dung ready for the farmer. So a farmer without a cow is then able to source for rich manure from the cow dung. So what we are seeing from these 4 characteristics of the farmer is that we can go around this and turn this into opportunities so that we can transition the smallholder farmer gradually and swiftly into the CA system. And so in conclusion, we're saying that turning the unique characteristics, of which some people call challenges, of the smallholder farmer into entry points in the development and promotion of CA will surely enhance their acceptance of the technology for further engagement. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Boa, for your presentation. And now that was the last presentation in this session, and I have a look to the time schedule, and we have only 5 minutes left because we must finish exactly in this online event on time. But we have 2 or 3 very specific questions that we will provide directly to the presenter. But one question I have here in the chat from Hafiz, and this goes to AMIR. And AMIR was reported about the expected adoption of area of conservation agriculture in 2050 for 700 million hectares. And the question was, what kind of regulatory framework and mechanism do we need to reach 700 million hectares? Amir, only 2 minutes, please.
Yeah, well, very good question, and I elaborated this thematically yesterday. I think that what we need to do is not think of something else which we need. What we're doing already at the global level is working, and that's number 1. Number 2, we need to really boost that forward and realize that farmers and farming community, and they are the drivers, and we must protect that in the process, and then really make sure that they are fully charged and supported, but then supply them with good knowledge, organized knowledge, scientific knowledge. They have, of course, got a lot of experiential knowledge which they must share amongst themselves. So their own moderation capacity is important. And then we must try and make sure that we then are highlighting to the policymaker that CA really delivers all what nations and society needs, and that we are all ready to to provide evidence-based policy-related information, knowledge to them and work with them as well. And then, of course, that really then feeds into more recognition and getting mainstreaming going now, because we need it for forever, and this is 30 to 50-year horizon. Institutional alignment then also is required, and that again is based more on science evidence. But then I think public awareness also is important. We must work there as well and embed CA contributions into the food system goals. And I think that those are the kind of 6 thematic areas, but we must not forget the first requirement is that the farmers must continue to drive the whole process and also continue to innovate, and then we join in and support and put more energy at all levels. Thank you. Very good.
Okay, thank you, Amir, for your answer. And I have one very short question to Boa. Do they mix 2 types of crops in one plot in Ghana?
Yeah, they mix
yes,
more
yeah,
than 2.
Yes.
Yeah,
I can
that
hear,
is
yes.
true. The traditional farmer will plant.
Oh, we lost you. So I can't hear you anymore. So that's a pity. But
I can answer that question, Jana. In Africa, this is very popular. Multi-cropping, mid-cropping, relay cropping, strip cropping. This is the way. As the field gets smaller, you maximize your land equivalent ratios through mixed cropping and all kinds of smart association cropping. And this is now happening even in Europe, and as we do it also in perennial systems. Yes. This is very, very, and also mixed species cropping as well is now coming through.
Okay. Good. And so it was very pity. I want to discuss with you more time, but I hope next time we can meet physically and to discuss more and more this topic. And what we see, this was an amazing and powerful overview about so many different experience, climate in climate regions, soils, crop rotations, mechanization, and like Boa say in his last presentation, feel it and believe it. And this was I thinking what we have do today in our session. For my personal feeling, it was so much experience and so much good examples for adopting conservation agriculture in so different regions, and that is what it makes so powerful tool, and what is also our community is all over the world working for conservation agriculture. I thank you very much for your presentations, for joining us to this World Congress. We start yesterday with a very powerful day, and I think today it was a very nice session. Thank you very much to all presenters. Thank you, Amir, for your keynote speech, also in behalf of the organizing committee. Many greetings here from Switzerland to you, to all your countries. And also thank you very much for all participants on this World Congress. And I wish you a wonderful Congress time today and also tomorrow. And thank you again. And I think we stay in contact and stay healthy. And thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.